Hey, it's Tom, and in this week's video we're going to look at a day in the life of a job shop. So I have had a lot of questions about, well, what is it that you do, or what does your shop do, or what do you specialize in? And we don't really. I mean, yes, we do have certain areas that we're more known. Near my plasma cutting, you know, I've got the mill and the lathe and stuff like that. But frankly, what I enjoy doing most is solving people's problems, right? Helping them out, figuring things out for them. So let's take a look at what a typical day might look like. We'll start with, you know, so twice a month I open up the shop and teach. So in this case, it's more of a joint teaching thing because the three of us are in this advanced class, are doing all this together. But you know, I do a Titans of CNC Academy small group here, and so a variety of things. But in this first one, we're going to work on some riser feet that we're doing for a large fixture plate for the brother. We realized that we didn't have the Z height that we were going to need, and so we're getting this fixture plate off the ground. And yeah, so just some basic stuff there.
I go to the parallel. Won't move really.
He's got it on right, so third spot. Check it out. Alright, so this is good. The program is there. I think it's riser blocks. All right, we'll let the tool maker, we'll let the tool and die guy decide. Now, could that also be because the surface we're on might be locked in?
Say what?
That, you know, 1.5 that we're seeing could be from taper on this too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that parallel, may not be parallel that way. I mean, you know, parallel so thin because you want minimal contact,
yeah.
right?
Could be a parallelogram, really, right?
Maybe a piece of dirt in there is gonna
step in something.
Well, you see, they were locking when they were when you face the other side, and now you're putting that side down. So it could go either way.
got 5 down, got one corner in.
You got 5 down in the corner? Is it because?
Generally, maybe that's it.
It's like which side is it coming from? The top or the bottom? Like I was looking at when you did it, it was this space. It makes me wonder if that is truly, did we get it good on that first operation? So, well, it may seem basic, right? So, this is kind of nice. I had used, these were parts that were originally intended to do something else. These were scrapped, and I had hung on to them for a long time, and we were able to repurpose them, get them all, so there's 6 of these, get them all at the same height and things like that. But it took the better part of that session, which was 3-4 hours of work, not to do the machining itself, but just because we had to sit down and think through, all right, what are we going to do? We had to make some adjustments to the fixture plate itself. We started making sure that all that was there. We started taking measurements on, on the brother to figure out, right, where can things go? What's our overall size and dimensions that we can use? And that's when we realized that, hey, we really need an extra 3" of height there, but we're a little too low for most of my tooling to reach in a reasonable manner. So yeah, it was kind of a back and forth, and you'll see we tried a couple of different methods of indicating these surfaces to make sure that it was all nice and parallel, right? And that they were within about 1 thou of each other. It wasn't too terrible because, as long as we're fairly close, anything else will be absorbed in the fixtures themselves. From there, let's see. I had plasma cutting to do, right? Some signs to get done. I had some stainless on the table, so let's take a look at that. Now the fun part about that stainless is, it cuts really nicely, but I also have to do the finishing on it, right? So you'll see I use an orbital sander, right? I make sure that I put fresh pads on it each time. I want to make sure that it's always getting good material and I'm not contaminating it with anything. But yeah, an orbital sander does a really nice job on the initial surface. It takes off any of the dross, stuff like that. And then I can, if I want to, I can use like a Scotch-Brite pad, or I've got a graining tool. I can come in and put a nice finished grain on that. So that got me towards the end of the day, But then I had to switch gears completely, and we went over to the X-Carve to cut some plastic. This is high density PVC. It's parts that are being used for a water filtration system that's going overseas. So I work with a local company here, and we've been going through proof of concepts on these. First one I think went to Kathmandu, if I remember right. And but yeah, we'll be doing several of these. And so what we did on that day was we spent about an hour or so doing layout. We had all the parts, and in the past we had cut those parts as just individual items, but this time we did layout to be able to figure out, okay, well, if we did this on one sheet, what's the most efficient way that we can start to fit these on so we can just press a button and go. It's going by pretty fast. That's at 20 times speed. I did have to do a little bit of back and forth on that because I would check heights. The plastic wanted to move on me, and there were a couple of heights that I wanted to have a little closer in tolerance. They were like 50 thou off once it went. But honestly, I think there was 100 thou in play on all this to begin with, and the way it was designed, because they're not used to having close tolerances. I actually got it down to about 5 thou I guess I was 5 thou over, which was fine because we needed to have a little bit of play. But anyways, let's take a look at that real quick. And yes, that was at 20 times speed. So it was about an hour and 15 minutes or so to do the whole thing. But I did all those parts, and what's nice is it was just press the button, let it run, right? Did all the design in all the cam in Fusion, and then just imported it into Easel of all things, and just let it run. So it works out pretty well. But yeah, so you get the idea. Any given day can be kind of crazy here, right? You know, there's always something going on. There's always a variety of topics and tasks, and the challenging part for some of that is just keeping it all in your head, right? It's problem solving. It's sitting down and saying, hey, how do we get to an adequate side on this? So anyways, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I hope you enjoyed getting a little insight on how pinball-like my day can be around here. Thanks. See you soon.